Good morning and good evening and good afternoon, wherever you are. Today we have a very interesting webinar on Next Gen AdOps brought to you by Tavant. My name is Nadine Krefetz and I'm a contributing editor with Streaming Media Magazine. I've written over 250 technical articles about media technology, and so I'm hoping to come here with this great group at Tavant and give you a little insight into what's happening with Gen AI, and AdOps. And I first off would love to introduce, we have three speakers. We have Filiz, who is Head of Media and Advertising at Tavant. We have Dr. Olav Laudy, who is Senior Director of AI Consulting at Tavant. And we have Vishal, who is Senior Director of Media Technologies at Tavant. And today we have both a combination of business as well as a technical conversation. And I think we're going to start off with Filiz, because she has had a very deep career looking at products and looking at what helps companies optimize and become more efficient. Filiz, why don't you start off?
Thank you, Nadine. Yes, as you mentioned, I'm excited to be here, and I bring wide and deep media and entertainment expertise from larger publishers and measurement companies. At Tavant, I'm responsible from media and entertainment practice, bringing solutions to the entertainment industry. Olav?
Yep. Thank you. So Olav, I'm head of AI consulting, typically concerned with innovative AI products, agentic design, and bringing the companies up to speed on AI and make them use the correct use of AI.
Vishal. I think we have Vishal.
Yeah. I have around 20 years of experience working with several media companies, working on different domain solutions. And I'm excited to be part of the AdOps solution at Tavant.
Okay, great. Now, if any of you have any participated in any of my other sessions, webinars, panels, keynotes, you know that I like to keep the questions coming. So anybody who has a question, feel free to put it in the Q&A and we will get to that question. If for some reason I don't get to your question immediately, it's because I know that the topic is coming up and we will potentially answer your question in the continuing information. But I think Filiz will start off with looking at where the industry is and why this is such an important topic right now. Filiz?
Wonderful. So just to maybe level set our session today, although we're an AI-led agentic and engineering company. Today's session is going to be focused on operations on the publisher side. So if you're part of a team, AdOps team at a network, streamer, or digital video, or fast publisher, you're at the right place. We're excited today to sort of share with you what we're working on, and hopefully, we'll be working with you, have an opportunity to work with you in the future. So if you have been at CES in the last few years and last week this year, something very important was happening, especially this year. Disney, NBC Universal, LG, the biggest owners of the premium TV inventory, all basically stood up and said that they're making big investments in AI and particularly agentic automation. What that means is not dashboards, not more reports. Systems can now reason, decide, and act across complex, basically, ecosystems to make things a little bit more intelligent, easier, faster for publishers and advertisers. Here's the interesting part, though, that I noticed, since given that this is a community of AdOps on the publisher side, none of those announcements were actually directly about AdOps, right? But every single one of them depends on AdOps working differently. in the, like the next gen of environment. That's why we wanted to really start here and ask a simple question. What happens when AdOps gets agentic and real-time intelligence along with automation? So in terms of the state of industry, like when we step back a little bit, advertising will pass for the first time 1 trillion globally across basically all of the media entertainment industry. So 2026, in a way, looks great with Winter Olympics, World Cup, and elections coming up. After a few years of really soft advertising, right, market, TV and CTV advertising is super exciting from the perspective of a growth. With that, a new set of expectations also becoming more real for us. Live sports moving into streaming, more personalization, more formats, more demand from the perspective of transparency, more measurable and outcome-oriented environment is expected. And ad spend passing 1 trillion and growth is the good news here, but the problem is operational complexity hiding inside that growth. I'm sure you're all feeling a little bit of that. CTV, FAST, AVOD, PG, PMP, those are the sort of the new business models is now being added, depending on what type of publisher company you are, on top of linear. So meanwhile, most AdOps teams pretty much, didn't get bigger either. Their workflows is just a little bit, heavier. What used to be the delivery problem is now a little bit of revenue protection problem as well.
So Filiz, it sounds like you have a lot of technical requirements because people want to keep changing and improving their advertising experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. From basically both from the publisher side, a lot of new revenue opportunities opening, and from the advertiser side, now TV becoming more measurable and digital, all these capabilities of, we can now measure and target more specifically our, audience and be able to measure that is bringing a lot of demand and volume in that way, both from a linear and programmatic standpoint.
Okay.
So that's
and so you've got the AdOps, I guess the systems that are required to put this in place. What happens there?
Yeah, it's super fragmented. So this particular slide kind of shows the process from left to right, from sales to, AdOps for the most part, takes up from the sales is down all the way to financial sort of reconciliation and billing. A lot of systems are involved, whether that's basically proprietary systems or really a programmatic partner systems. So each of these basically boxes have probably multiple systems involved and manual steps for AdOps folks to perhaps take the IO from CRM system and enter it in the OMS. Synchronization between buying systems and the selling systems, and that they need to constantly reconcile. And of course, prone to errors, as well as with the new volume coming up. And one of the other, trends that are happening in the industry is that, everyone wants to open up for small to mid-sized businesses besides the big holdcos. So because of that, the more volume, more complexity, more fragmentation in the ecosystem. So that is really what we're trying to solve for. We'll be showing you today the AdOps Accelerator. So I just wanted to sort of answer what it really is. So it's not a product, it's a SaaS product that we're selling, and it's not a rip and replace. So, we all know that, pretty much all of the publishers are invested heavily into years and years to these amazing systems. And from the announcements that we just shared, there's continuing investment going on. But the issue, again, is the intelligence across these systems are not combined to provide real-time insights to AdOps to be able to proactively sort of take care of those important issues. So we're focusing on in our AdOps Accelerator 3 big use cases or stages. So the first one is campaign setup. Second one is pacing, which is probably the heart of AdOps issues today, particularly live sports coming into the picture. Live sports is hard to sort of determine when the peaks are going to happen. It's hard to determine when a game is going to go overrun, and therefore basically is going to open up new inventory, right? So all of these basically are now the AdOps issues that needs to be sort of more proactively dealt with. So the premise behind us basically building an intelligence layer on top of their existing systems is to be able to basically provide those real-time insights. And if needed, if basically, again, human in the loop, we'll see an example of that soon, be able to potentially like, oh, this is underperforming or, under delivering or over delivering. Let's automatically move this to the other parts of the inventory, matching the audience targeting.
Okay. So it sounds like it's a connective thread in some ways, connecting the things that need to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from all these processes that we talked about, so we're basically in the process of, when we're building this initial demo that you're going to see soon, we took the sort of, the sample data from each of the systems to start building the intelligence layer. And in the process of right now connecting to those systems, talking with those partners individually. So depending on, again, what kind of publisher you are, some publishers are big publishers that basically contains linear and digital sort of forms of businesses. And some publishers own those systems, for example, OEMs and some of the digital players who might be on the phone probably have internal, basically DSPs and SSP kind of ad tech. But even then, within that, they can really use basically agentic way of automation and insights coming real time and live to be able to automate and improve their businesses. I think we can move on to the next slide. So one of the most important parts of this for us was how can we measure and estimate the benefits of the automation and the insights. So based on sort of some of our domain expertise and friendlies and as well as basically our agentic expertise across many industries at Tawant, we were able to sort of look at the key use cases and determine that 30 to 60% optimization across these basically stages that I talked about, which means AdOps teams 2 to 3 times can be more productive, which again in return means better revenue protection and margin protection, as well as onboarding more customers, more advertising customers, and more inventory or business models, depending on the case.
I think this slide is actually very interesting for people who need to kind of, I guess, socialize some of the rationale for why this is important within their companies. For me, when I take a look at looking for research in the industry, it's always hard to find numbers that work. But realistically, I think that these numbers are actually quite substantial when it comes to things like changing the pacing and overspend errors. I mean, that's like a very big number, which I would hope is important to people. I know that we have a lot of different people in the webinar right now. We have a poll. I just want to kind of interrupt for a second. We have a poll which we are curious to find people. It's a very short one. If they have the chance to respond, it's only 4 questions. It's located under the More button on the right-hand side of your screen, I believe. And I feel like I'm a traffic cop here. If you click on the More button, you'll find the link to the poll. we have, like I said, very short questions just to figure out where you folks are in terms of the things that you're interested in. But again, like I said, we have a lot of questions that we'll be answering as we go on. And this is the end of my interruption for the poll participation. So I'll go back to you, Filiz.
I love the questions, so feel free to do that anytime. Double clicking on the benefits that I shared, these were some of the, just the granular. You can go back to the detail slide. It's really, breaking down, where those overall numbers coming from was campaign setup. We measured campaign setup, asset and tag collection, monitoring and pacing, reconciliation piece. By the way, Vishal is going to share the financial reconciliation piece. Obviously, whenever we talk about operational workflows, this is super important. The benefit of this system is also accelerating speed to cash, right? Right now, financial teams are working a lot to sort of compare what was promised, what was delivered, not only reconciling across these systems, server logs, what was in SSP and DSP and so on and so forth, but also, constantly basically, where are we in terms of, make goods or billing. So I think, this is another important piece of the application. And then reporting, we talked about it. I think everybody has reporting today, definitely, but constant reporting, reconciliation across these separate systems is a challenge. And the idea here is that you can, in our tool, you can ask basically a real-time question to figure out what's happening at the moment in natural language fashion. So overall, like I mentioned at the bottom, you're seeing that 30 to 50% reduction we're seeing across these use cases. Not to mention, of course, error reduction, consistency, and faster escalation recommended by the intelligence system, and higher sort of client satisfaction, because now you're basically able to report on what's going on a timely basis as well. And finally, financial impact, besides the sort of speed to cash, is protecting revenue and being able to, just through automated pacing, be able to know, if basically multiple line items is targeting the same inventory, you can prioritize which one gets the, the first shot at it, and improve the margin.
Okay.
I think, yeah.
One of the things I was thinking as I was looking at your slides is there must have been a lot of people that you did research with on the industry. For them, when you reached out and started talking about this, what was the response from people?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you build a solution or a product, you have to do market validation. So certainly, basically, we've gone through. I mean, we have a big media customers. We have digital players who likes to be on the front line of innovation. We have smaller companies who are interested in being efficient from the start. Certainly, basically, we've done a good survey across to validate the market fit, and getting huge interest in terms of being efficient through agentic and AI.
Sorry, I had to interrupt you. I just was curious. I'll let you continue on.
That's wonderful. I think I'm about to just between myself and demo to just probably put all the curiosities at rest. I have one more slide. I just wanted to get in front of this question as well, which we got through the interviews. Hey, if I have basically an AdTech environment or solution on the programmatic side or the other side, why would I need additional intelligence layer? It's great that all the AdTech platforms individually across the process flow that I shared is continuing to advance their innovations and provide intelligence. But I think for companies that are doing all these business, models at the same time and working with multiple systems, it's important to sort of have an intelligence layer that sits on top of everything from a publisher standpoint. So that is my short answer. With that, without further ado, I will turn over to Olav first for the first pieces of the demo.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, so connecting to the earlier question, indeed, when we tried this out at a number of media companies, we found a reaction that they said this is incredible because normally this would answering a single question that goes across multiple data sources, that is just 20-30 minutes of your time, and now it's a single question that you can ask and you have an answer within seconds, and that is the main advantage here. Now, before we show the demo, I want to just kind of level set the difference between an agent and an LLM or a large language model. Typically, we use ChatGPT and the like to ask all kind of questions. And today you could do that as well, right? You have an Excel spreadsheet with a lot of data, you upload that and you can ask a question and it does some kind of an analysis. Now, we implemented not just an LLM on top of this data source, but an agent. And this agent has the capability of truly like reflecting on the data and reflecting on the outcomes. So that's what you will see in the demo as well. We ask a question. The agent goes out to the database, multiple data sources, realizes, okay, I need to ask this question here, this question there, consolidates the data, looks at that data, and based on its understanding of the task, then will compile a report with a corresponding visualization. I think we are ready for the next slide. Yeah, so just to be very concrete, right? We envisioned three different agents. One is a campaign agent, and you can ask questions like, well, what campaigns are going live next week that haven't creatives uploaded yet? That's typically two different systems right there, right? So you need to have a campaigns table or campaigns database system. You have a creatives system. It needs to be consolidated. You need to kind of understanding, for example, what is next week with respect to today. Then a pacing agent, right? So questions like, okay, what is the gap or what is the pacing on day 3 for a certain campaign? And finally, and that's what Vishal will show, the reconciliation agent, right? Let's look at the reconciliation for a certain client. So again, we will show 3 different agents. I guess in the demo we split them into different agents, so you can really see that you have numerous different types of questions. I think in reality you would have a single agent that can deal with all those kind of questions all at once, but just for the visualization we kept them in 3. So let me share my screen here.
So I have a question while you're setting up here. So you've got these different agents. Where's the data coming from that the agents are working with?
Exactly what Filiz mentioned, right? So
Yeah,
we're not trying to replace those systems, but like have a layer on top that is capable of consolidating those data sources. Normally, as an AdOps person, you may not be doing those SQL queries yourself and getting those data yourself, but you were to ask an analyst or a data scientist, and they may give you complete answers after some time, or they may give you like half answers in terms of raw data, and then you're going to kind of connect that together on your dashboard or your desktop. Potentially you have access to dashboards that give partial answers. That's nice because a dashboard you can click and look, but then what if you have a follow-up question? Then you still need to have like data that you then try to download and meddle with in Excel in the worst case. That is all what we try to prevent here by creating a conversational interface on top of these multiple data sources.
Okay.
So I can also jump in to expand on that. In the process flow that I've shown, the IO comes from OMS, SSP, ad server owns the sort of server logs. So there's, like a truth system for across the workflow. So the application is going to either talk to those directly to gather real-time information, or in certain cases, some of our publishers, pull the data into, stream the data into their data environment, Snowflake and Databricks, or whatever the case might be. So depending on the needs of each, again, this is not a product that we sell. It is basically an accelerator with the right guardrails, right sort of, architecture infrastructure that we already kind of are integrating into. So the benefit to someone, implementing this, once they implement this, is, they can use that framework and, pre-built sort of, some of the security and guardrails that is designed for a media entertainment company. Therefore, if they wanted to already do this and tackle with this, they can get there, 30, 50% faster in terms of the delivery. So it's a custom environment. Depending on where their data is located and coming from, it will adapt and flex to those needs.
Okay, sorry. I'm always interested as to where the data comes from. I'll let you go back, Olav, to your conversation here and your presentation.
Thank you. So we see the three agents here. On the right, you see communication flow. Normally, this is hidden for the user, but here I made this explicitly clear so you can actually see the multiple steps the agent takes to create this answer. So we start with the campaign setup assistant. I have a whole bunch of sample queries that I can ask. You can ask any kind of question really by going live here. So a simple question would be, what campaigns are starting in the next 7 days? And so let's see what happens, right? So we use Claude. At the end of the day, you can use a variety of large language models here, up to what your company has licensed or what compliance is allowing. Claude is definitely a good choice given the smarts it has. Now, if we go in here, we saw that Claude starts to think, right? And it realizes what is today. It finds a number of campaigns. That means that it goes into the database. It requests a tool use that's like, hey, I need to ask something in the data, and then data comes back, and with that data, it creates an answer. And here there's a most urgent answer: Ford Mustang Mach E Winter, the Google YouTube Sports package, and so there's dates there. It realizes. Of course, you can say what campaigns are starting in the next 7 days. That can be a dry answer, right? Here's your campaign. This is the date it starts, or just these are starting in the next 7 days. Instead, this agent realizes it needs to give a comprehensive answer. It provides you values. It provides you numbers there, and then it shows a useful graph that demonstrates or that visualizes what campaigns in this case are being done. And of course, there's actions coming forth from this. For example, you can say, I want to send an alert, and the high priority notification is sent to like the relevant people, because the agent is aware who's connected to which campaign, or we can schedule a meeting. And so you see how the agent really, like, on the one hand, takes data, integrates that, creates a report, and on the other hand, is capable of action into a corporate environment such that it becomes a complete loop. Now, for the delivery and pacing monitor, as mentioned earlier, we have this split now in 3 different agents, but effectively underneath, you would represent this as a single agent with 3 types of capabilities. maybe we ask what campaigns are delivering less than 80% of expected pace. And again, the agent needs to think about that for a moment. We'll go into the database, figure out what the data is like, and compile a report out of that.
Can I interrupt you for a second here? So you're working with a live demo, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, it's a live demo, but however, the data that you're using is not confidential data, it is demo data.
Yeah,
meaning
that's
that you've supplied information, so we're not showing you anybody's confidential information here. Just wanted to make this clear.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you for that question.
Of course. I also want to make sure you don't get in trouble. As well, you're using some pre-assigned questions, but you can use a question that you make up, can't you?
Yeah, totally. I can ask anything here, and it will intelligently think about that. And you can even talk to it. There's a speech to text button here, and it will answer. And for anyone interested, we can have a follow-up conversation where I provide you access to this tool so you can kind of play around with this. Look, we see two underperforming campaigns. You see there's an echo dot promo, there's a delivery rate, there's the viewability below optimal, etc. Right? So we see comprehensive answers being formulated by the agent because they have access to the domain and they have access to the data, and that makes something very, very easy to work with. All right, from here, I'm going to hand this over to Vishal, who will take us to the next agent, the reconciliation.
One more question just before. Sorry, okay. I hate interrupting you guys, but I'm curious. So you have quite a bit of information and knowledge here at your fingertips, but realistically, when people are using this, are they able to go through and kind of access different data that is within their organization, or are they accessing data that is public information? Where does the data come from? Again, I just want to make more clarity in my own mind as to this.
Yeah, so the data sources will be well defined, right? So
okay.
I know that say ChatGPT has the ability to say, go out online and find something. That
right.
for corporate environment, that doesn't have the level of reliability that you would want to. And in fact, your AdOps data is typically in very different buckets within your organization, and it's well defined. It's just hard to reach and it's hard to consolidate. And this is the problem, truly, what the agent solves, right? It is your personal analyst or your personal data scientist that is capable of taking in that data that has access to within your organization and compile comprehensive reports.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that we understand, and there's security involved, obviously.
Obviously, yes, absolutely, yes.
Well, I just have to ask, you know that.
No, yeah, those are all great questions. It is easy to step by that and think that okay, you need to have everything open, all the data is accessible to everyone, but in a way, just like you have very clear permissioning of data access for employees within companies. The same holds for an agent, and it can be tied to the person who is querying, for example. It's like, okay, this person can access to those data sources. So an answer, the agent will, on their behalf, access only those data sources.
Okay. All right. No, that seems clear. We have a question from the audience, but I don't see it in the Q&A window. Can you put your question in the Q&A window? That way I can actually find it more easily. And I'll definitely go back to the panelists and make sure they get to that question. Sorry, Vishal, let me go on to you now that I've had at least 4 times to interrupt Olav, but continue on, Vishal. Let's hear what you've got to cover. We need to get Vishal's audio on.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I was talking on mute. So you can see my screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'll start with the reconciliation assistant. So finance analysts probably have the toughest jobs in the world, so it's a nightmare for them, when they have to go to different systems, compile across Excel sheets, and still don't get the data to tally. And they have to ask the technical people to get the information and everything. So this tool actually provides everything in one place. It automates information from them, and whatever they are doing in their daily job, whether they are trying to find out which invoices are outstanding, or they're trying to create a report, a trending of payments over the last months or so, or trying to solve a very specific issue as to why some gap has happened between bill and the booked value. You know, so this tool comes in handy. It's an agent. It's an intelligent. You can just ask questions, and it'll give you answer, right? And another very key problem, is revenue leakage, right? It's very difficult when you raise like invoices and the invoices get back. There's some disputes over the invoices, and then you do some adjustments to go back and forth. And why not just fix it the first time, right? So I'm going to walk you through a sequence of events that can actually help the agents uh, to uh, to prevent, if not fully prevent, but lessen it to a considerable degree. Typical dashboard where you have different clients, some of the key information regarding booking versus delivery, and versus what is at risk shown, so that the agent knows where to look at. Move across and show a programmatic uh, deal as well. um, so this is interesting because you would see here that it's a programmatic, it's a guaranteed deal, and still the impressions from DSP and SSP are zero. It's still getting impressions from the ad server only, and the system is actually recommending, the agent is recommending escalation, which means that you need to investigate further why these gaps in the different source systems is there, and whether it's significant enough to actually change the impressions that have come from the ad server. And you see that it's giving a rationale based on some historical precedents as well. But in this case, maybe the agent feels that this is after investigation, probably we need to accept it. So there is provision in the system to change. So this is the human in the loop mechanism to change the recommendation, and you need, and by giving a suitable explanation. And so I have a ready-made explanation here, which I can probably use. And this explanation says that we have investigated it, and like, thanks for flagging the issues, but we would want to accept whatever impressions have been delivered. And we have entered that into the system. And now if I run the same agent again, like the agent again for the same campaign, it's going to give me, probably, I'm hoping it will give me a different recommendation, because we have just given it an explanation for it to accept the deal, and it has changed to accept. And if we now run similar campaigns for like other campaigns having similar data inputs, it's probably going to give the same result, right? So that's the beauty of this. We have a framework in place, like the architecture is in place, where we are using external information like the past historical cases, as well as some of the business rules. Um, and using that to build a very, like, it's a combination of deterministic and probabilistic recommendation. And we can extend this framework to any use case within AdOps, like more certainly to pacing, which is slightly more complex than this problem, right? So with that, I can. That was the demo piece from my side.
Now, I have a question. Vishal, let's see if the question is
Sure.
either for you or for Olav. I'm not quite sure. So the question came in is, what is the fastest way to pilot this agent? So when the question came in, we were changing between Olav and you. So I'm not sure whose question this is, but what is the fastest way to pilot this agent using company's data in under a week? Should the data source come from an existing MCP? Which one of you would answer
Yeah,
that?
I can take that. So MCP is a model protocol that allows a large language model or an agent to flexibly connect to different data sources. Just to clarify what MCP is. Now, while we use an MCP, it is not required that a company has an MCP available. Right, it is actually the key that we bring our own MCP server and we connect it to the company's data sources. I think the easiest way to get started with something like that is ensuring that we have access to two different things. One is a number of reports or questions that are continuously asked and that take a long time to answer, right? So that is the friction we need to solve and demonstrate that the agent can solve. And then a number of non-production systems where shadow data resides, right? You typically are not going to start with production data and say like, okay, we need access to your complete systems. So any non-production system plus a number of questions that take a long time to answer, that is a great way to start. And then you place this agent on top and see what it can do.
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, both Olav and Vishal, I think these demos are very interesting, but what you're saying is that normally this is one interface that somebody would be using. Is that right?
Yes,
That's
and
correct.
this interfaces and whatever we showed are completely configurable and customizable. And I think, and just to add on to the question as to how much time it will take to implement this, it depends on, how much changes we are making. But our architecture and framework is such that, we can very easily plug and play on the different business rules or the logic and connect with the data sources as Olav has already explained.
Okay.
So
Now,
just to wrap it up, what we're showing on the screen, Nadine, is sort of, the way we work, a discovery session. And typically, basically, our team is super excited to go to customer location and have a day or half a day, depending on their use case, really. Sometimes it's basically whole transformation. And we basically schedule. Sometimes it's a very specific use case, right? Like, and we could do that in 2 hours. But we typically would like to sit and meet. I mean, do we do virtual? That's possible too, but we'd like to sort of go sit down together, collaborate, whiteboard, and really agile way of working. And then conduct a POC in an environment that is safe before we then, operationalize that in a more enterprise format and deploy. And, it could be like if it's a very small use case and a little adjustment where they have all the data control, right? That they give us and read-only access and we have everything we need. And a small use case, it could be a week, but it could be year, if it's a transformation and the end. It really depends on the sort of what the use case is. But we'd like to have a return ROI on a smaller scale first, improve ourselves, move on to sort of bigger use cases.
right. And obviously, when you're talking about a year, you're talking about a very large, involved.
Large. Exactly. So if
Yeah.
it's a transformation, it's a huge a media company where, SSPs and DSPs and the ad servers are across, multiple SSPs, multiple ad servers. That environment is slightly different than an OEM might have everything already under control. A digital player maybe, everything, all the data under their control, and it's a use case that is basically quickly implementable. That is much different, right?
Okay, that sounds very understandable. Now, we definitely have the chance for people to ask questions, but especially if you want to directly reach out, the emails are both for Filiz and Vishal on the screen, so please do. As well, definitely everyone likes to connect on LinkedIn. So if that's your thing, please connect with any of these folks on LinkedIn, and that way you can have a interaction with them there. I definitely have time now for a couple of questions. And so, okay, one of the questions is, what platform do you run on? So I'm assuming, what does this mean? It means AWS? What does that take to you guys?
Yeah, exactly. All those platforms are cloud platforms, right? And we can accommodate any cloud provider, and that holds like the system can run within your own area of that cloud provider.
So AWS, name the other ones.
Azure, Google, yep.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Now, I know that one of the things that I always think about is, Vishal, when you were showing the demo data, and you said that some of the information coming in was coming in from the ad server, but not from the SSP or DSP. What does that mean in layman's terms to people in terms of the reliability of the data?
So ideally, like whichever client that we are working with, so we are going to get that client's data. If they're using an SSP or a DSP, so like it's going to be their accounts from which we are going to get data from there. So here, since we are using, we are mimicking the actual data. We are
Okay,
kind of creating scenarios and presenting the information here.
great. Okay, definitely understand that now. Okay, I know another question I have is the skills for people, for the staff who you're working with, do they need to have new skills that they develop, or is this something that everybody, as they started working with these chat systems, really already knows how to do? If any of you could answer this question.
Yeah, that's
I mean, I'll
great.
start. Oh,
Okay.
Go ahead. Olav.
I think the beauty of the new wave of applications is that everything happens in natural language, right?
Right.
So earlier you would need to have, I don't know, SQL skills, and so suddenly you find yourself typing SQL, pulling data, and then transforming that data. That kind of technical work is now basically executed by your large language model. Now, the key is still you need to ask decent questions, right? But that of course is maybe a trivial thing to say. If you ask good questions to a system, it will give great answers, and it will help you exactly do your business and remove the friction that you have experienced prior by having to ask other people or do it yourself.
Okay, so I definitely think it's very interesting, because the thing is, though, is the system, you can ask the system anything, right? In
Yep.
terms of related to your business, obviously.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you will be having
No,
an interesting.
Yeah. I would say, though, underscore that, just that you don't need to have the deep technical expertise, but certainly, as the business user, you're expected to know a little bit about, how AdOps works so that you can handle the escalations, the suggestive, take action on suggestive recommendations, so on and so forth. So if you're doing basically yield management, you need to have that domain expertise. But certainly it's a tool that also is going to help onboard the new staff a lot more easier, right? What it probably used to take months to, train somebody in that environment is going to now be super fast.
Okay. I mean, to me, what this sounds like, and obviously I'm not running these systems, but I'm just asking questions here, is this is giving people the ability to kind of scale things to the point where with all this data, you have no other way to really work with it. In fact, this comes to the question that came up next is, how do we know this will be accurate? So you have all this data. If any of you can answer this, but the accuracy of this. So you're working with an agent. How do we know that what they're returning is accurate?
Yeah,
I
first of
think
all,
that
I think, the source systems needs to, I mean, as observability is baked into the solution. So as Olaf showed, as you're kind of asking questions, the system is thinking and pulling the information, and, you see all of sort of how under the hood, what's going on. So the attribution also is basically kind of, to each of the systems that it's talking to is provided, as well as some sort of scoring mechanism is in the system. If,
Yes,
for
and
example, there's
yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, I can add to that. So we have an eval framework that we are using, and like it's basically an LLM as a judge. So there is another LLM which is actually judging that how the decision taking capability, like how good the decision is being made by the first LLM, and that input is actually being given back to the system to train it and make it better. So that's the way we are trying to make sure that the system is accurate.
Yep. And then my part of the answer is, I think once we set up a system like that, we start with a large number of questions from the client and making sure that they can be answered in the correct way. And there's questions undoubtedly that are so complex that they can be answered today. Once you understand that, you tell your agent, look, if a question like this comes in, you basically tell or give the answer. You need to connect to this person to help me tell the answer. If the answer that comes back in during training is once in a while incorrect, that means you can instruct your agent to come back with an answer like, okay, heightened alert, you need to be aware that not these questions have not always been correctly answered. So you need to stay vigilant. And for a large part of the questions, you will find that those questions can just be answered 100% accurate, and potentially more accurate and obviously faster than a human analyst can do. And so once you observe that during the training time, you will get enough confidence that your system is indeed capable of generating the answers that you're looking for. And that is how you basically learn to trust your system.
Okay. Now we have like very little time left, but I just wanted to make sure that people know that this recording is going to be available after the webinar, and I think we're going to send out a link. The staff here at Devant has covered pretty much every question I could think of and more. The recording should really start the conversation, but please reach out to Filiz, Vishal. Olaf's kind of the in the dark person here, but we're suggesting Filiz and Vishal are the better people to get in touch with. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. And I also especially want to thank Devant for inviting me here to ask those questions that they might have been shyer to ask themselves. But thank you, and have a nice day. And definitely looking at this topic has been a very interesting thing for me. I think it's going to be a real game changer. So I hope that everyone has a good working experience today and has more questions that come up that we can answer in the future. Thank you.